Hello, hello. It is Joe Dawson, the author of The Goodness Potion and its side effects, right here. What else have I been doing? Well, I have made myself a little model of Tom, my main character, and I have documented the whole process so that should you want to make your own version of Tom, you can do so. Just follow the steps in this video. You'll find all of the materials that you need in the link below. So the first thing I did was draw an outline of Tom from the book, so that he was roughly the same size that I wanted the final model to be, and then used wire, twisting it round itself to make it twice as strong, and then attached it to just a box to keep it upright. Then began using the Fimo, however you pronounce it, which we will eventually bake. You obviously use the instructions that are on the back of the packet. It was a case of starting with the light colours first, and make sure your hands are clean, especially when you're changing between the colours, particularly the blue that we'll be using later, really will come off on your hands and things, so it's very important to wash your hands between those. So I began by making the torso. So yes, I started with his chest, and then I did both arms, and then obviously it's just a case of smoothing a huge amount of sculpting, is sort of adding little bits, taking bits away. What I'm doing here is just filling out his stomach, just defining everything a little bit more, because otherwise it's just a little bit too round, and his sort of stomach was a little bit too flat. I'm adding a crease at the bottom there so that it looks like fabric, and then you add this in sort of thin layers, and then it's a case of smoothing it down with a tool that you can see there. And you can use those tools to add detail. You can get something called a lazy Susan, which enables you to spin the sculpt around to do it from multiple angles. I didn't have access to one, unfortunately, so I had to do it my own way using a box. So this is where we're at. We've got the little tunic, got some folds in here, got the little cusp of his collar, and got this nice and smooth. So this is the next day, and then we're doing the blue. Here's me pointing out that, yeah, you need to wash your hands. So it was a case of making a tube. Then, since his trousers are going to have a seam down them anyway, I split them in half, because then it's a case of like slipping that onto the wire, and then it's a case of smoothing it over once it's already on there. But obviously you do want to keep a bit of a line, because as I say, the fabric as if it were stitching, would be there anyway. Then I was onto the shoes. It was a case of cutting the bottom of the leg into a triangle so that I could then slip the shoe on at the back. And then it's a case of blending the sort of at the heel so it all looks like one piece. So here I am making the backpack. That's all one piece, and I just folded the top half over to make the, what would you call it, the lid, the top part. And I made a strap. Just made sure it was all nice and even as I was, rolling it across his chest there. Then it was a case of using the tool to define a button on there. And then we're going to go through and we're going to add some stitching as well. So making his belt there, and then added a knot separately. Obviously it's not a real knot, it's attached afterwards. And then I went through and I added little textured lines so that it felt like rope. So then I made a slingshot. So then I mixed the dark brown chocolate colour with the caramel colour and made sure it wasn't perfectly meshed together so that it left lines as if it was made of wood. Then it was a case of blending it in so it looked like it was attached to the belt. And we cut a little notch out of it to fit that in. Then I'm adding the stitching and the seams at the sides there of the bag. And then I added stitching around his shoulders. Okay, so he's baked. Because with this material you can bake it multiple times, which I didn't realise, having used it for many years as a child. But yes, the light colours will darken very slightly between bakes, but it's a much easier way to work. Okay, I started again. I rolled that into a ball, and then based on this, used my tool and cut this cheekbone out and this cheekbone out. And then the pupils are literally just my tool going in. Now the head was a little bit harder than I imagined, because obviously he looks quite different when he's got hair. And again, I was folding the two different colours in to make his hair darker than the slingshot. But yeah, again, it wasn't folded in too much so that it looked like individual hairs and things, and it gave it a bit of texture. And then I went in with my tool and added extra texture as well. So I have bought off eBay a battery pack which is wired, and it's got a little blinking blue LED. So got my wire, and then I've wrapped the wires with the LED at the end round. Okay, so this is done. So I've got the little LED sticking out at the top there. So then yeah, this is wrapped round. So Tom has been baked, and I've drilled holes through here, here, and here. Strip these wires and then reattach them. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. Just gotta flip the switch, and let's see. Yes! And here he is, on display at MCM Comic Con. So I hope you had a really fun time model making. I certainly did. And if you would like a copy of The Goodness Potion and its side effects, then you can get one from my website at joedawsonbooks.com. Thanks for watching.